Welcome to the Life After Plus One podcast, where we turn life's lemons into delightful lemonade. Get ready for inspiring stories, uplifting conversations, and all the tips and tricks to rock your single parent journey with style. I'm your host, Leanne, and it's time to embrace the adventure of Life After Plus One. So, let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to Life After Plus One. I'm Leanne, your podcast host and your single parent mentor and coach. And today I want to talk about the breakup in the early stages. Now, what I mean by that is when you go through a divorce and you go through a breakup with your de facto or co-parent, it is the hardest thing you will go through. Now, what a lot of people forget is that, yes, you're going through this really hard, emotionally, mentally draining phase of your life. And then add in things like court battles and financial settlements and custody and everything else. It adds 1,000 times more pressure to everything else. You're trying to deal with a breakup. You're trying to adjust to having the kids go to the other parents, and you're having to let them go for a few nights a week or week on, week off, or whatever your arrangement is. You're adjusting to living off a smaller income. You're adjusting to all these other changes in your life and doing everything all on your own. Then you add to the mix all these court battles and legal proceedings and everything else just to finalize it all. Not to mention, you're doing all this when you're in the probably lowest emotional state of your life, which really makes you think when you look at it like that. How the fuck do people go through this? It is seriously the hardest thing of your life. Then you've got the hardest court case and the hardest battles that you've got to fight with custody and financial. It's a lot. It really is a lot. Mentally, emotionally, financially. It's exhausting. And this is why so many court battles can just drag on and on and on. And why it's so hard for couples or ex-partners to come to a resolution, because they're just not in that mental and emotional state to think clearly. When you're so stressed and when you're so angry and mad and you're sleep deprived, you are not thinking straight. You're not thinking rationally. You're thinking fight or flight. You're just thinking, I've got to protect me. I've got to protect my future. I've just got to look after me. I don't give a shit about them. It's just me. This is what I want. You are not thinking clearly. You're not making the best decisions. And the only people that really benefit in these stages are the divorce lawyers. Now, no disrespect to divorce lawyers, because they are a much needed group of people that we all need in today's society, and they are highly skilled and trained people, but they are the ones that benefit the most out of these situations. But I'm not going to sit here and say, don't go to court. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not going to sit here and say that's not what you should do. You should avoid it completely, because they're the only ones that make money, and it's going to cost you a shit ton of money, and you're just blowing it all down the drain. That's not what I'm saying. But hey, if you can do that option, 100% go for it. But what I'm suggesting here, and what I'm trying to address here, I should say, is when you're going through this, you really need time to step back and put yourself in a better emotional headspace, or get yourself a little bit clearer. Get some perspective on what's happening, because it's very easy to get into that mind frame. Well, not easy. It is. That's what you do. When you're in this emotional headspace, you're just reacting. No, they can't have that. No, they can't have that. I want this. I want this. You're just reacting to everything instead of actually stepping back, processing it all, thinking about it all, and then responding to what you think is most beneficial to you and most beneficial to the kids. But when you're angry, when you're deprived of sleep, when you're stressed, when you're pissed off, when you're hurt, you're not making the best decisions. You're not thinking rationally. And when you're going through court, you're probably not even realizing how much money you're throwing down the drain, all just to prove a point to your ex, or just to try and beat them or to try and one-up them. Is it worth it? Now, I'm going to say this multiple times in this episode. I'm not telling you not to take your ex to court. I'm not telling you to let them walk all over you and you just walk away with nothing. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is it's very important that you take the time out to really mentally process what's happening and really work out what you want that's going to help you in the future or in the long run. It's not about, I need to prove a point. It's not about, no, I want that, so I'm going to get it. It's about compromising, and no matter what the outcome is going to be, there's going to be something that happens that you're not happy with. It's never both of you are going to be 100% happy with the outcome. It never works like that. There's always one person that gets more, one person that gets less, or it's the only people that win in this situation are the lawyers. So what do you do? How do you handle it better? Because the hardest thing to do when you're hurt and pissed off and angry at your ex is to compromise with them, because compromising is like you're giving in to them. It's like you're letting them win. And when you're dealing with your ex, someone who you hate more than anything in that moment, you don't want to compromise with them. So to avoid compromising, you're just going to keep fighting, just so you win. Is it worth it? There needs to be a point where ideally both of you, but wouldn't that be an ideal world if this could happen? But it doesn't. So hopefully at least one of you can get to a place where you say, this is emotionally and mentally exhausting. This is not okay. We can't keep doing like this. We can't keep just going in and out of courts and back and forth with lawyers just over something so minor and trivial. And quite often, when people are fighting for things, they're fighting and fighting and fighting, like you're getting people that are fighting for 100% custody when the ex hasn't even done anything. They're just pissed off at them, so they want the kids 100% of the time, when I guarantee you, later down the track, you'll probably end up regretting that because you've got no free time from the kids. So you need to really think clearly about what you want and why you want it. Are you wanting this just to piss your ex off? Are you wanting this to prove a point? Or are you wanting this because it's really going to help you and your future and your kids' future? Is this something that you really need and you're really passionate about and you think it's something that you should be getting? Then yeah, keep going, fight for it. But if it's something just to prove a point to your ex, is it worth just saying, hey, you know what? I surrender, I'm not fighting. Because the more you keep wanting to fight with them, the more it's going to cost you, the more stress it's going to add to everything else, the more hate it's going to have towards each other, and the more angry and bitter you're going to get. And it's not just angry and bitter towards your ex. It affects your whole life. It really does. When you're going through a breakup, you're not just pissed off at your ex. You're stressed, you're exhausted, you're just not thinking straight, and you're in fight or flight mode. So one of your friends might say something to you, which normally you probably wouldn't have given a shit. But because you're so hurt and you're sleep deprived and you're angry, you're very on edge about everything, and you react to anything and everything because you're just so caught up in this whole divorce battle and legal battle with your ex. And it really does affect your whole life. And the longer you drag it out, the longer it takes for you to move on with your life, and the longer it takes for you to clear your head and start fresh again, because that's what you want. You've broken up because you want a fresh start. You've broken up because you want to go your own way. But the longer you drag this court hearing out for, the harder it is on you. It's like you're dragging out the breakup. But this is the point you need to really think about. Is compromising really giving into them? Or is it giving into you? Is it compromising which is going to allow you to have that peace of mind? It's compromising which is going to allow you that clearer mental headspace so you can just let this go and you can start fresh. But really, it's not easy to do. Having a clear headspace or thinking straight or even wanting to compromise when you're going through this, it's not easy. It's not easy to want to turn around to your ex who has screwed you over or cheated on you or whatever has happened in that situation, or maybe they've just been emotionally unavailable for the last 20 years and you've just clocked off and you don't give a shit what happens, but you're still holding on to anger and hurt because for the last 20 years they couldn't show you that they loved you. For the last 20 years they couldn't show you that they cared about you. They didn't give you any respect. They didn't give you what you wanted in the relationship. But now all of a sudden you're going through this court battle and they've now gone off and got a new partner and you're even angrier. And so you're just like, I'm going to show them. Nah, how dare they go off and get a new partner? But there really is so much. There's a lot. And your emotions are just running wild when you're going through this. Why are they doing this? Why are they getting a new partner? Why are they spending money on this? Why are they asking me these questions? Why this? Why that? There is so many questions going through your head when you're going through a breakup. And you're not thinking clear. You're not thinking straight to really just stop and turn around and go, actually, why do I even care? Why am I even asking myself these questions? Who gives a shit what they think of me? Who cares that they've got a new partner? Lucky them, they can have them. But when you're in that breakup phase, you're still hurt and angry. You're not in that, oh, I don't care stage. You're in that, fuck them stage. How dare they? And so whilst you're going through all this legal battles and custody and financial settlements and everything else, you're in the worst mental and emotional headspace of your life. How are you going to make good and clear decisions when you're not in a good headspace to even make a decision about what you're going to do on the weekend? But you've got to be put in a position where you need to make these legal decisions about your future and your kids' future. And that's why so many legal battles and breakups and divorces just get messy and just drag out for so long because you're both not in a good headspace. You're both pissed off at each other. You're both hurt. You're both angry. And you're both just wanting to win. It becomes a battle of tit for tat. It becomes a battle of, no, I'll show them. Instead of just getting to a place where you're like, okay, let's just finish this off. Let's just work out who's getting what and let's just wrap this up because I'm done with this relationship. The quicker we can wrap this up, the quicker I can move on with my life. And really, if you look back maybe 2 or 3 years on from your breakup, sometimes maybe even longer. Sometimes people take a lot longer than that. But if you look back, you probably think, yeah, well, you know what? Now I look back on it, I probably should have said that. I probably should, you know what? Who cares? I don't want it. Just do what you got to do. Let's just end this relationship. But when you're going through the breakup, you're not there yet. You're not in that headspace to make these productive decisions that are going to benefit you and your future and your kids' future. It's all about, no, I'll show them. And they end up being decisions that you later regret because you're just making it in flight or fight mode. You're just reacting because you're not in that headspace to think clearly. So, Leanne, what are you suggesting? Hey, what are you saying we should all do if we're all in this emotional head fuck of a stage when we go through a breakup? Because you don't really have a choice. You can't say, okay, sorry, I'll come back in about 5 years when I'm in a better headspace and I'll go through all this then. Because you don't want it to drag out that long. You really don't. It's a catch-22, isn't it? In one way, you'd like to just, hey, let's come back when I'm feeling better, when I'm in a better headspace. But you don't just want to be legally married to your ex for that long. You want to kind of get rid of it, clear everything up and move on with your life on your own. So what do? Well, this is where you learn to handle your emotions. And this is where you can use someone like me. Because you know what? When I went through my breakup, I wish I had something like this. I wish I had someone to talk to when I was angry, when I was pissed off, when I just wanted to throw my phone and I didn't care if I smashed it, when I just hated everyone and everything and I just wanted to hide out from the world. I wish I had someone to talk to and say, Leanne, okay, you'll be fine. This is where you're at. It's not a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal. Your story is a big deal because it's your story. So I'm not discounting anyone's feelings. But when you're in that, you're not seeing another perspective. You're not seeing another side because you're angry. You're just wanting biased opinions. You're just wanting people that will agree with you. It's like when you go through any breakup and you talk to people and you talk to your friends, you want those people around you that say, oh yeah, what a bitch. I can't believe she did that to you. Oh yeah, he's an arsehole. Yeah, I would have got rid of him too. I can't believe he did that. You want people that validate your opinion. You want to be around people that just confirm how you're feeling and confirm that your ex is the biggest arsehole in the world without even considering any of the facts. And that's what's important here. You need to consider facts, not just be looking at one-sided opinions where people are just sugarcoating things just so they can agree with your opinion. And that's why it does help to talk to someone like myself or just to keep listening to these podcasts like this that will help you in these situations so you're not going there on full rage mode and full anger mode and you're furious, ready to erupt. You're not going to make productive decisions in that moment when you're thinking like that. Now, it is hard. It is hard when you're angry and when you're hurt and you're pissed off and the last thing on your mind is thinking, okay, how can I better handle this? What can I best say to my ex right now? Because that's the last thing on your mind. You are pissed off, you're seeing red, and you don't give a shit what they say. You just want your way. Now, I get it. We all want to be heard. We all want to be listened to. We all want to have our opinions respected and we all want to be understood. But when you're going through a breakup, your ex is not going to do that. Your ex is not going to validate your feelings. Your ex is not going to sugarcoat things for you. Your ex is not going to come up and give you a pat on the back and say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. I mean, hey, you may get some nice exes that do that. But good chance if you do, you're probably not even listening to this podcast because you're probably in a much better headspace and you don't even need this. But your ex is not going to do that. Your ex is not going to validate your feelings. They're not going to just give in to you. They're not going to give you what you're needing in that moment. And when you're sad and when you're hurt and when you're angry because of something that's happened from your ex, you need to find a way to let that out and to work through that before you go through all this custody and legal battle. Otherwise, it will just drag on and you will be just throwing money down the drain. And I don't mean throwing money down the drain just because you're seeing a divorce lawyer. I'm saying in the sense if you just keep going and you'll just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between lawyers just to get this something little that you want, or because you want to prove a point, or because you just want more than them. So really, what I want to get across in this episode is, what I want to get out in this episode, or I want you to understand, if you're going through a breakup and you're in the middle of court proceedings or legal proceedings, you're about to start one, or you're thinking about breaking up and you know it's going to go down this path, best advice I can give you is try and work out your emotions. Get yourself in a better headspace, because if you're going into this with anger mode and you're just going into this saying, I will show them, I don't give a shit, it's going to be a long and ugly process. And yes, you're angry at them, but I can guarantee you, if you go into this in that headspace, they're not just going to come and meet you at that same place and say, oh, that's okay, you can have that. Guaranteed, they'll probably want to come back and one-up you. And then you're going to want to one-up them. And then they're going to want to one-up you. It's an endless battle. And it's only going to cause you more mental and emotional stress that you don't need because you're already going through enough. And these battles are so hard mentally and emotionally that for me personally, when I broke up with my ex, we had a court date set and it ended up getting dropped. We cancelled it because I was so mentally and emotionally empty. I just couldn't. Mind you, he tried to manipulate his way out of it. And I was just like, no, hell no, we're going to court. But then I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? No, I don't have the energy. And I pulled the plug. I did pull the plug. And part of me thought, no, you know what? If I'm pulling the plug, I'm giving in to him. But then I thought about it, that my mental and emotional sanity is more important. I don't care if I walk away with nothing. I've got my daughter. And now, mind you, I'm not telling anyone to do this. I'm not saying you should walk away with nothing just so you can be emotionally and mentally, in a better place. And that's what worked for me in that time because I was working or dealing with an extremely toxic and highly volatile person. And for me, our breakup was already an extremely unpleasant one. And I knew going through court would just make that 1,000 times harder. And I just got to the place where I thought, you know what? I've got my daughter with me and that's all I need. And I just wiped my hands clean of it and I walked away. And again, I'm not telling anyone to do that, but it's about getting to a place where it's about your mental and emotional health. It's about doing what is best for you and your kids, not what's best to beat your ex, not what's best to prove them wrong. It's about looking after you. And if it gets to a point in that process where you're just about wanting to prove a point, where you're just wanting to just do it out of revenge or out of spite, then is it really worth it? Is it worth it mentally, emotionally, and financially? That's what I want to get at in this episode. Because another thing that I really noticed when I was going through mine was my emotional headspace was just at an all-time low. And I know for a fact that as a mum, I wasn't being the best mum I can be, or I could have been, because of what I was going through. And I knew that if I went through court on top of all of that, it just would have messed with my head even more. And I mean, in the sense that, the emotions that come with it, the sadness, the anger, the stress, the constant worry, the sleepless nights, that was already there. And then adding court into the mix, I was just like, I don't need that. Mentally and emotionally, I don't need that. And it does affect you as a person. It affects you as a friend and it affects you as a parent. So you really need to think about when you're going through this. Is this affecting you as a parent? Are you constantly moody around the kids? Are you constantly on edge? Are you not having any quality time with the kids because you're so stressed? You're not sleeping. You're just moody. You're just constantly searching for ideas on things, on ways to fight your ex in court and different things that you need to do. And you're constantly dealing with lawyers and writing letters and doing stuff like that. Is that really worth your time? Now, again, I'm going to say this one more time. I'm not telling you not to go to court, but I am saying just be cautious, I should say, not don't. Just be cautious that you're not getting to a place where you're doing it just out of spite, because it's only going to affect you. And that's not what you want. That's not the outcome that you want. The outcome here is to end the relationship and go your separate ways, and you can create your own life. And you don't always get a cooperative ex. More likely, you don't get a cooperative ex. And that's what makes it even harder. But when you're coming from a place of spite and revenge, then they're just going to come back even more spiteful and even more revengeful. And this is where you need to learn that giving in is not giving into them. It's giving into you. It's giving into a better life for you and your kids. And when I pulled the plug on our court date that I had with my ex, like I said, part of it felt like I was giving in to him. But then there was so much relief on my end thinking, okay, this is done. I don't need to deal with this anymore. This is done. And that's when I was able to really rebuild my life again. And that's when I started the journey to becoming here, where I am now as a single parent coach. And I just wish I had someone like this to talk to back then, because it is a lonely state. And the hard thing is, if you don't have a lot of single parent friends, they just don't get it. And no disrespect to them. I'm not talking badly about married friends, and I'm not telling you not to have them, but they don't. They don't understand how difficult it is. They don't know the right questions to ask. They just don't know the emotional and mental stress that you're under. And sadly, a lot of the times, if they're in a situation where they're friends with your ex as well, it becomes a battle of, well, we don't want to take sides. What do we do? So they just try and steer clear and not get involved at all. But the shit thing is, when you're going through that, you need your friends. You need people to talk to. You need people to listen to you and understand you. But certain friends just don't know how to do that for you. So it's a really, really hard stage. And so many people underestimate that, because not only are you dealing with all this difficulty of being a single parent and not having your kids all the time and the finances and everything else, you're also having to deal with walking on eggshells around your friends, so to speak, because you're working out who's there for you, who's not, who's willing to understand and listen to you. And that's a tough one. But I feel like that's another episode on its own, so I don't want to go off on a tangent about that topic. But back onto what I was talking about. And I just really want you to take away from today's episode the emotional headspace you're in when you're going through a breakup, and how heightened you are, how you're not thinking rationally and you're just in fight or flight mode, and yet you've still got to make these hardest, most difficult decisions of your life. So when you're in this process, try and put your emotions first, and your kids first, and your future first. That's a lot of first, isn't it? But you get where I'm going at. Don't put your priority as seeking revenge. Don't put your priority as just wanting to prove a point. And please remember that compromising or getting to a place where you say, I surrender. Okay, let's just call it what it is. That is not giving into your ex. That is you doing what's best for you, because your emotional state is extremely important for you and your kids. You do not parent as effectively as you should be when you're going through this. And that's not a fact that's related to being a single parent. Mind you, when you're going through this, you are a single parent. But what affects the kids as part of the single parent journey is the way you and your ex communicate, and way you interact with each other, the way you parent your kids. That's what affects them. If you're in a good headspace, the kids are fine. If you guys are cooperating with you, between you and your ex, the kids are fine. That's what you need for your kids, because they see everything. We think that, they're kids, they don't get it, they don't understand. Trust me, they know. They are smarter than you think. And I do want to just also point out that if you are going through this, sometimes just having 1 or 2, maybe even 3 or 4 sessions with someone like myself, where I can debrief, we can nut out a few ideas of how to effectively work through this process so you're in a better headspace. Now, I will point out, I'm not here to give you legal advice. That is not my job. I'm not legally trained. I'm here to give you coaching as a single parent. I'm here to give you coaching through your divorce and through any new relationships that you go through. Not offering legal advice. That is not my job. But I can emotionally prepare you for that stage and for that journey. I can emotionally and mentally prepare you for when you're wanting to go through this. So you're in the right headspace and you're not making decisions based out on anger or revenge or hurt or sadness. You're making these decisions and choices based on what's best for you and your future and your kids' future. And that's what's so important here. And hopefully when you get to a better headspace, when you're going through something like this, it makes the process a lot easier and a lot quicker. And when it's a lot quicker, it's hopefully a lot cheaper. And that's what you want. So that's just some food for thought, because a lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about when they're going through this process, about the emotions, the emotional state that they're already in because of the breakup. They just think, okay, I'm breaking up, I'm going through this, and I need this, got to get this sorted, got to get this done. You don't think about that. It's all later, a few years down the track, you look back and it's all in hindsight, isn't it? But when you're there, you're just not thinking about how it's going to look later down the track. You're just like, where you are now, this is what I need, this is what I got to get, this is what I got to do. And you're just not thinking straight. And that's no disrespect to you. That's just because of everything that you've got going on. It's overwhelming. It's a lot. And it's quite scary at times too. Okay, so I am going to wrap this up. But I hope that you can take something away from this episode about how to handle these situations when you are going through something like this, and about not just making decisions for all the wrong reasons. Really put some thought into what you're doing, step back and process it all. And like I said, I'm more than happy to have a chat and work you through this process. I do have a free chat available where we can just chat and you can see if I'm someone that you want to work with, and we can just get a feel for each other from there and see if that's something that's going to benefit you. If not, then I hope these podcast episodes are something that can help you, and keep listening to them as a way to learn how to handle these situations better, because that's what it's about. The whole purpose of Life After Plus One is to help you get through your divorce and your breakup journey in a happy way, in a effective way, and a way where you can get through and have a fun life and enjoy your single life and enjoy where you're at, instead of just being in a place of hate and hurt. And that's the goal here. And also, most importantly, getting through it as quick as possible. And I mean, like, emotionally getting through it, I should say, not necessarily legally. I have no control over that, but getting through it emotionally and just moving on from your ex in a healthier and happier way. So thank you, everyone. And as I always say, I do hope you got something from this episode, and feel free to give some feedback. If you've got feedback, or if you're actually going through this process now and you're struggling, if you have any questions, please feel free to share them. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or any feedback that you have. You can message me on my Instagram page at Life After Plus One, or you can shoot me through a message on my website, which is all in the show notes below, which is lifeafterplus1.com. And if you're loving the show, go ahead and share it with your single parent friends and help them on a journey to a much happier life as a single parent. So that's about it from me, guys. Thank you again. And please, I hope you're using some of this support and advice that I share in these episodes. And I do hope you will find it useful. And that's about it from me, guys. And until next time, I'll be in your ear then. Thank you for joining us on the Life After Plus One podcast. If you loved what you heard today and looking for some further support, then jump onto our website, lifeafterplus1.com. Plus, don't forget to check out our Instagram page for further resources and inspo. You can find all the links in the show notes. And remember, you're not alone on this path. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep exploring your amazing life after Plus One.